Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's a terrific Tuesday evening. My name is Ayokunmi, and you are listening to Business Hub on the Smooth Drive. It's time to get into the world of business on Business Hub. And this evening, we're looking at the SMEs and talking about survival for the SMEs in the second half of 2024. Now, just to give a little bit of backstory or context to this conversation, Nigeria is home to approximately 40 million MSMEs. That's the micro, small, medium enterprises, of which 90% are in the informal sector. Now, Nigerian fintech company MoneyPoint has compiled a report on the state of MSMEs in Nigeria. Now, the data on challenges they face in accessing loans and aversion to saving with traditional banks is compiled in a new report from MoneyPoint. Now, joining me this evening to talk about what's been going on in that sector and looking at how SMEs can survive in the second half of 2024 is Nnanke Essien. She is the lead strategist at SiSa. Welcome, Nnanke. Good evening. Great to have you once again on Business Hub.
Thank you, Ayokunmi. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Now, for all our wonderful listeners, you can join the conversation by sharing your messages with us on 0809 440 981. 0809 440 981. That's the WhatsApp platform. You can also join the live stream on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. And drop your questions or comments. If you're a business owner and MSME owner, and you know, if you've come this far this year and you're looking to the rest of the year, this is where you need to be right now, because we're going to be talking about a lot of things that could take that business of yours to the next level. Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty of today. Now, the report from MoneyPoint says that only 12.2% of MSMEs get loans from traditional banks. Now, 70% from family and friends, and 15% from loan apps. What is the obvious issue here in your view?
I think it's very obvious, right? A lot of SMEs or MSMEs would say that traditional banks can be perceived to be inaccessible, particularly along the lines of requirements, things like high interest rates, things like the process, even collateral and whatnot. And you would find that family and friends, of course, they give you that level of buffer. Sometimes people give you, your family and friends, they give you money so they don't quarrel with you, so they don't fight with you, so you get off their neck, you see.
Right,
so there's
right.
pressure in terms of wanting to get the money back or wanting a return on an investment. Sometimes your friends would even give you money. I mean, don't bother me, or money they can let go off. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So you might find that those sort of systems are better. But I think that before we even start to blame the banks, I just want to go further into a little bit of what we can do so that we can just kind of solve that issue. I think before we start to blame banks, we must also understand that a lot of business owners, particularly MSMEs, we need to understand the concept of discipline, particularly along the lines of staying in business and building a business. Because the same report you're talking about talked about the fact that a lot of SMEs will spend money on food or school fees or things about caring for their family, which infers to a very large extent that the concept of business education might be missing in this space. Do you understand? So when you get money from family and friends, that sort of structure does not have any form of advisory that might be helpful on how to run the business, does not have any form of accountability, so the business owner might as well run it, however they would want. Do you see? So that's why most people would move away from traditional banks and focus on family and friends. But I sense that there can be a marriage in both aspects, right? I feel there can be a marriage. And that marriage for me is that the report also says that even though the money etc. is not a lot, they still make a bulk of the economy. So it might be a good opportunity for bankers to kind of think about a better option in terms of developing solutions that is essential for the stakeholder, not solutions that the bank thinks is essential for the stakeholder. Do you see?
Right.
So this might be a good opportunity for us, particularly within this economic climate that we are seeing now, to begin to engage these stakeholders, to understand, like I always say, the color of their problems, and kind of simplify, loan application processes, or even tailor financial products or financial services to fit MSMEs. But I feel like we shouldn't stop there, because that's where I say the marriage comes in, which is we kind of have to inject that culture of discipline and also just focus on providing simple, maybe financial literacy programs or even incubators
Right.
targeted at this informal sector, if is what I'm trying to say, so that we can give the businesses a chance to survive, and as well as let them understand why they need to come to the bank for, or understand even the concept of credit worthiness, or even just the loan products as well. As much, so that we don't have people just injecting money into and already leaking pockets. This is what I'm saying. Banks rather
Right.
should actually use
Right.
this opportunity to. The report just shows that this is a growing part of the economy that we shouldn't ignore. That's what I think. Yeah.
Okay. Now, on a quicker side here, you mentioned, you talked about business education and financial literacy and some things that can be done on that front. Now, how key is it for financial literacy and the likes to be impacted in the younger ones from a very, very young age before they get to maybe university and get on and start thinking about, oh, I want to have a business, but they don't have that financial literacy from the ground up. I mean, they're taught a lot of things from primary school and secondary school and all that. But when it comes to financial literacy and business education, as it were, how much more can be done to make a difference?
Man, we need to pay attention really to financial literacy, particularly, so for instance, if I take my kid to the store to buy groceries, I'll most likely pay with my card. So our children are beginning not to even understand the concept of naira and kobo or even savings. Sometimes we would even spend before we think about saving. Do you see what I'm saying? So they
Mm,
naturally don't understand how to allocate money to different aspects, of their lives, or even starting to understand the concept of investment. I personally had to get an investment app, a child-friendly investment app for my own kids to begin to
okay.
help them and financial literacy, because that's something that a lot of kids do not have. So even though there's a particular segment in schools that will teach about naira and kobo or even entrepreneurship, there's no deep dive into understanding, financial options that are available, financial services that are available, or even financial literacy programs. So you find that these children will grow up into struggling. And that's something you would also find in this informal sector as well. I feel like education will play a huge role, but we can kind of tailor education to fit the sort of market. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Right,
um,
right.
if my mom, who owns a catering outfit, can understand how to solve very complex issues of this is my cash and this is your change, I feel
Mm,
like, she would understand a little bit more of, just basic financial literacy programs, just simple concepts of borrowing, budgeting. And, I know when we were growing up, we used to have a lot of advertisements on TV that really helped us to that sensitized us. I can say a few, we had MAPSA, we had just so many, adverts then that sensitized us on basic things, even the work of the police and so many things. So I feel like just engaging
mm.
on in of this sort of visual aids will help both our communities, both our children, just understand things around financial literacy, things around, just practical demonstrations of how we can begin to allocate funds. Because I like the fact that you took it down to children, right? And not just our stage, right? Because we need people to be literate in terms of just understandable format of how things can be done. So
Definitely.
I feel like just using simple things like pictures or hands-on activities just to teach financial concepts is very important, particularly in our time and age. Yeah.
Right, good stuff. Okay, now let's bring it back to that report, which also revealed that only 11% of MSMEs save via traditional banks, while cooperative and group contributions form the bulk of how MSMEs prefer to save because they feel closer to home, in quotes. Now how do you offer more options to them that don't feel distant? And you're talking about cooperatives and group contributions. The first thing I think of is Ajo. That's the first thing that really comes to my mind.
Yes,
Oh,
that's the
yes.
first thing that comes to that's the first thing that came to my mind as you started reading that question. You see, the truth of the matter is that I feel like there are a few more entities now that are mirroring this style rather of what I say community-centric options in terms of improving, in terms of savings for. I met one of such SMEs. I was recently at Vivatech in Paris, and I met one of such what you call it? I apologize for that. I met one of such MSMEs.
Okay.
I met one of such MSMEs, that has this sort of this sort of system, like community-centric system for market women. So even if they need
Right.
like 100 naira, or they need like 200 naira for the end of the day, or they need just a little capital to buy some of their products, this particular environment offer that opportunity, then also offer some sort of, savings style or savings options for market women, as it
Um,
was. I feel like there are a lot more non-banked options are thinking of more innovative ways to engage women and make them feel closer to home, or to engage, market women or those who play in this space. So I feel like when we begin to understand again the needs of this particular women, so we cannot just create solutions without getting into that system. We can't just create solutions without getting into their minds and understanding what close to home means, or what familiar means, so that we can now that create, flexible savings accounts they can draw from, accounts that they can say, okay, at the end of the month, I can get this bulk amount and take it
mm,
into my business, things like. I was quite impressed to see that. I mean, I can't mention the business name here, but I was quite impressed to find that structure actually existing. And I feel like the more their work begins to spread, in the marketplaces and in all of these open places, we would have much more businesses or solutions trying to dig into this offering. Yeah, that's what I feel.
okay, that actually is very interesting. Now, looking at that particular business enterprise that you mentioned that was available for that. Now, how much does education actually play in being able to use that? Because a lot of people would say, oh, because it's in the formal sector, the educational level isn't all that high. So things need to be as simplified as possible and all that. So if we're going to attain a certain level in terms of opportunities or options for these MSMEs, how much of education is going to come into play here?
So I feel like like I said before, we can tailor education in this regard is very relative. You understand? I think
Mm,
when we think about education, we might think about a large curriculum or a huge, no. Let's focus on how simple education can be. And like I gave an example before, I said, if my mom or the woman in the marketplace can accurately calculate, take your money and give me change, that thing baffles me, because this is somebody who probably hasn't seen the forward of a primary school. But when you give her 200 naira and what you're buying is an odd number figure, she knows to the last kobo how much to give you. So that means that if we tailor education, we can bridge that gap. Or if we tailor the sort of financial literacy options that we have, we can actually close that gap. So when we begin to
right.
think basic, and I say basic financial literacy program, so things that simplify what is savings, what is borrowing, what is budgeting, using storytelling. And if you ask those women in the market, they have stories for donkey years. So
Oh,
imagine
yes.
with them in like a round table, having them in like a forum, and having, how we used to do Tales by Moonlight in the past, and get real life data from them, and then break that down into simple stories. Trust me, it will go a long way in even peer-to-peer learning, because they will talk about it in their peers, peer-to-peer conversation. They will learn from each other's experiences. They will learn from these practices. And I feel like even the radio as well. Most marketing men don't have TV accessible to them, but they have radio, those small
Mm.
transistors. I think those things still exist. So even
Ah,
using,
yes.
even using our local dialect, using pidgin English to just say, Mama, this now for you, listen to this. Do you understand? Just engage them in understandable format. It would help before even thinking about the huge curriculum. Do you understand? So even most companies will think about doing CSRs. Why don't we equip, trained educators that can visit the market and provide like on-site learning for them, use visual aids, use storytelling, to just emphasize the thinking around financial concepts. This would even give the banks soft leverage when they bring their products. This will give other financial houses soft leverage when they bring their products. And it would also build trust, because a lot of people don't have trust with the banks. They rather put money
Mm.
in time money in their wrapper, or time money, keep money in their room. So, by the time we begin to employ, this sort of familiar training styles, and we come so often, and we help, and we show that we are partners, we are helpful, I think we will build that level of relatability. And it's not just a one-off. We have to consistently engage. Do you understand? Consistently
Right.
engage. If we have problems, find solutions to it. So we'll begin to implement this sort of tailored education educational programs, or financial literacy programs. It would help even an illiterate woman just getting the better understanding. She will start teaching her children at home. Do you understand? Because she herself will find that this is an opportunity for her to improve her own financial stability and just include her in that ecosystem. So I don't know. I've been saying ha ha ha, but pardon me, I'm a woman.
I understand
Yeah.
perfectly. And that would be such a beautiful thing to see, to see a woman who, market woman who isn't formally educated, then learning all this and then being able to teach other people. That would be such an amazing thing to see. We'll talk more about this and a whole lot on the other side of this quick breather right here on Business Hub, brought to you by Lotus Bank on the Smooth Drive on Smooth 98.1. Stay with us. All right, very quick break and we'll jump back in.
Carefully tailored to provide you with superior banking experience delivered in the most ethical and responsible manner. As Lotus Bank, it is partnership for progress. We share your risk and profit, making it a must-win for all. Open a Lotus Bank account today or use any cashless platforms, ATMs, mobile banking, or internet banking to enjoy seamless transactions. Contact our 24/7 call center. Dial 07000 Lotus Bank, which is 07056887225, or visit www.lotusbank.com. Lotus Bank, partner, progress, prosper. Your feel goods. Here on Smooth.
Welcome back to a Business Hub on the Smooth Drive on Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. 33 minutes past 5 p.m. It's a terrific Tuesday evening. We're all about the SMEs this evening, looking at survival for all these businesses in the second half of 2024. And still with me on the show is Nnanke Essien. She is the lead strategist at SiSa. And we have been talking about the SMEs, the MSMEs, and of course, what can be done to make banking options and financial options, closer to home for those who are in the informal sector. We know that the informal sector in Nigeria is a very, very large one. And we've talked about how options of teaching that particular sector in languages in ways that they understand. It's not all about, oh, go to this classroom and, 2 plus 2 is 4 and 10 plus 10 is 20 and all that. No, you need to be specific as to how you speak to different groups of people. It's not a one size fits all thing as far as I am concerned. All right, welcome back to the show, Nnanke. And it has been an interesting one, you sharing all this knowledge with us. And for those out there, you can also share your experiences with us as well on WhatsApp on 0809 440 981, 0809 440 981. You can also join us on the live stream on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, so let's get back into the conversation because I'm having so much fun this evening. So we've looked at education and all that for MSMEs and so on and so forth. Now, how do we actually get the MSMEs out of the informal sector? Now, this is a two-pronged question I want to throw at you here.
Yeah.
That's on one hand. And do you think that there will be less MSMEs in Nigeria if more formal job opportunities existed?
That's a doozy. This is actually a tough one. I mean, I think many MSMEs, they operate informally due to, so I would just say maybe regulatory burdens and maybe lack of incentives. So even the report we've been making reference to has mentioned the fact that, the most they pay is levies, so they're not paying tax, they're not burdened with taxes and all of those other burdens that you have in the formal sector. So why? I have two ways to answer this. And my first will be that, okay, what can we do in terms of simplifying the registration process into, the formal sector? What can we do about providing tax incentives? What can we do about offering, support services to help people transition, to help MSMEs transition from, the informal to the formal sector? What can we do in this area? Those are questions that came up on my mind as you started to talk about this. But beyond that, I would feel like, why can't we even just standardize services? I mean, off the top of my head, because if you think about, other clients, you find that more often than not, you have those in the informal sector more standardized. Do you see? So if you're going to get a plumber, you know that this is the specific amount I'm going to get because that plumbing environment has an association. They have clear guidelines. They even have training programs on how to, provide services, how to provide customer experience. They have safety standards. They have quality benchmarks. They have you can go into like a yellow book, and find a service provider in your environment or that fits your requirements. You see, they have even certifications and licensing. I think one of the industries I wanted to adopt that was the vulcanizing industry in Nigeria. They still have regular audits. So you will see like maybe like a restaurant, they do AAA ratings. They come to check for safety and all of those things. And then there's also the education part. So really to answer that question, I feel in a sense that aside from, making it easier to get into the informal sector or providing less liens on taxes or whatnot, or less burdensome options on taxes, why are we not focusing on standardizing services? That's providing services, because if you begin to standardize, people begin to trust that environment a lot more. And there'll be a lot more patronage than we are even having now. This is what I'm saying. There'll be a perceived sense of professionalism and, improved quality, because you know that there's some regulation somewhere or some regulatory body handling them. There's some certification or license you see on their wall when you get in. So that kind of gives you, do you see what I'm saying? Even market women.
Right.
And at the end of the day, when we standardize these things and people are able to trust these service providers, economic growth, right? So it's a beautiful balance. Do you see what I'm saying? But I mean, if that's not an option for us, we can think about the regulars, just thinking about how, we can provide a hybrid structure for both the formal and informal, or how to get in there, still focusing on access to resources for maybe funding or mentorship or market access, just an inclusive economic policy, economic ecosystem that balances both. But I feel like standardizing should really be the way to go. And in terms of, what do you call it? In terms of education, I'm sorry, job, you mentioned job, if I'm...
Yeah, I mentioned that. That do you think that there will be less in MSMEs in Nigeria if there were actually more formal job opportunities?
But while I feel that way, to be quite frank, while I feel that it would reduce the burden, I still have a strong sense of strengthening this entrepreneurship ecosystem, because I feel like it's very crucial for where we are as a country, particularly now that our middle class is really dwindling. It will be very, very essential for us to understand how to strengthen this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the reason I'm saying that, because when we make this system strengthened and formidable, guess what will happen? There'll be more job opportunities, right? So it's a two-way prong, if you think about it. If we're able to kind of provide support, both administrative support along the banks or tax filing or compliance or regulation, if we're able to provide government incentives, if we're able to provide a library. I mean, I'm doing a project now where all we are doing is providing the digital library for the employees in that organization. We have like mentorship programs or access to market programs, or all of this capacity building, whatnot. We have legal assistance to help with the regulatory, climate and stuff like that. We also have like proper core business advisory services, like people that can advise you that if you make this money, use this percentage for your family, but put this percentage into marketing, put this percentage into, even getting goods directly from source. Just business advisory. By the time we solidify and strengthen this environment of entrepreneurship, or this environment of MSMEs, as the case where more jobs will come. Like, you'll be surprised what ingenious solutions can come by just paying closer attention to how we can build capacity, how we can build support systems, and how we can provide advisory services for this sector. So I'm sorry I did not answer you how you wanted me to answer it, but I just feel like we should start expanding the thoughts along the lines of organization and providing support and just easing that transition, like we mentioned, from informal to formal operations. Yeah. But in a
A win
very
is a win. A win is
regulated.
a win. I'll
I
take
mean,
that answer.
I
I'll take
mean,
that answer. A win is definitely a win. Okay, now I'm going to take you back a little bit. Earlier on, you were talking about like her, and you tried kind of apologize on that front. It was actually fine because it has brought us to this particular point where I need to ask this question. And I mean, from your perspective, how exactly are female-led MSMEs faring in Nigeria? I mean, from your perspective, from what you've seen and experienced.
So what I've seen, to be honest, I feel like there's a decent amount of support for female-led businesses. There's always one empowerment program or the other, one mentorship program or the other, or even financial grants. Even religious houses, you will find that there's more focus on women. So because you will find that a lot of women might have some sort of marginalization when they have to go into the market, or maybe they would have some sort of, I'm going to use the word bullying, in certain areas in the market. So you have much more support for women. And I feel like those sort of support environments are very welcome for women. Yeah. So I would say that if they're actually absorbing the mentorship and absorbing the support, then I feel they are faring marginally well. You see what I'm saying? Because of all of these structures I've seen available. Yeah, this focused support I've seen available. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now let's talk about cash and digitization. And I say that because many MSMEs in Nigeria are actually cash based. Now they operate manually with cash, obviously. So do you think digitization can actually make a difference and make things easier for them, or it doesn't really matter at the end of the day?
So the truth of the matter is that, and I'm sorry that I'm going to take it a notch higher than MSMEs. The truth of the matter is that cash gives guarantee to the business owner. Do you understand? But
Okay.
cash, that the business is so dependent on a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when the business is so dependent on a person, it means that if the person is out of the picture, then automatically the business will die. Or if the cash is out of the system, automatically the business will die. So the thing about cash is that it kind of restricts you to operating manually. Very
Okay.
hard, a friend start a business, and what the employees need to do was to just write orders on a book, write orders 10 naira, then they write change 5 naira, or this, and it was such a mess because for every time they wanted to service somebody, they probably have forgotten the person's name or forgotten the person's order or have to be scrambling through papers, and there was just not a neat way of even balancing accounts. And I'm saying this because this person is not operating in the market. This person is not operating in, what the kind of environment you're talking about. But
Right.
it was not an efficient way of running the business. So that if one person was not available, that business will not thrive, or the customers will not be satisfied, or something will just not happen right in that environment. So I think the where digitization comes in is to help people to see that your business shouldn't be dependent on a person, but on a system. Do you understand? And we brought in small solution for them that they could just type in a customer's order. It was like a simple Excel sheet. Just type in customer's order, type in how much change. We told them some simple plus or minus, and it just made life easy for them. Now, whilst a market woman might not be able to use a computer, there's been during the COVID time, there was some educational system that ensured that even with text messages, you could teach people in very rural areas mathematics. So we could begin to, leverage those sort of systems that helps a woman that doesn't even have a WhatsApp-enabled phone to be able to use her, permit my language. I'm sorry for all of your listeners abroad. It's a palasa phone. I said it. Like I used like her tiny, phone to make simple decisions, or even deposit money, or do all of those simple things
Right.
that the business runs on cash. Because when it runs on cash, it's just too manual, it's just too dangerous. In serious business world, we'll say it's key man risk, and we don't want to be having those sort of situations in our organizations at this time.
Definitely. No, man, this has been quite a conversation with you this evening, Nnanke. And in about 30 seconds, because the time has actually done in Lewis Hamilton and flown by. So in about 30 seconds or thereabouts, if that's possible, what's your outlook for the rest of this year for MSMEs in Nigeria?
Unfortunately, it's not going to get too better. So it's going to get a bit more worse than,
No
you know,
light at the end of the tunnel.
I got carry touchlight at the end of that tunnel, sir. Because, I mean, I understand that the government is doing quite a lot, but we won't begin to see the effects real soon. Do you understand? But
Mm,
this is also an opportunity for us to explore growth, to explore support, to explore learnings that come. You understand? To encourage those sort
okay.
of
Okay.
adaptability so that we can leverage our knowledge, to kind of fight the challenges that comes with this economic hardship. So even if I know that the economic realities are very harsh, there's support for you, right? There's support with
Right.
mentorship, support with soft loans, there's support with organizations that can help to just kind of navigate this challenging economic landscape. And all of us, don't worry, it'll be better. I promise you. Just not anytime soon, but it'll be better. That's
Mm.
what I
Well, I
yeah.
mean, hearing that there's some light somewhere along the line at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly.
What the end is, we don't know,
We don't
but
know
there's light
yet,
at the end.
but there's light.
But there's light. Thank you so much, Nnanke Essien, for joining me this evening. She is the lead strategist at SiSa. For those who love to talk to you on social media, just pick your brains on certain things, business owners and so on and so forth. Where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can find me personally, Nnanke_Essien. On LinkedIn is my full government name, Gloria Nnanke Essien. And on YouTube, you can find us at SiSa Method. And yeah, we're excited to speak with you at any
That is
time.
actually very, very straightforward. Thank you once again for joining me. Do have yourself a great evening and a great rest of the week as well.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All righty. And thank you to all our wonderful listeners out there for joining us this evening on Business Hub, brought to you by Lotus Bank every Tuesday, 5:15 on the Smooth Drive on Smooth 98.1. Ayokunmi here, and the Smooth Drive will continue.